SalesCrunch. Learn more, earn more.
There's a bunch of different types of investor presentations that sort of change from time. They go away from 10 seconds to maybe to 5 hours. And each one has a different type of dynamic and probably also a different type of visual support that you need for each one of them. So let's start with the very short one, the 10-second version. And there are often two types of 10-second pitches that I hear. This is one of them. Like we have 10 seconds, we load up with all the buzzwords, all the content that are latest, hottest things in technology, and we throw them all at you, and this is what we are. After this sort of enormous storm of information, nothing actually has sort of changed. It was a lot of noise for 10 seconds. So people take the next level up and say, well, there's something about what should be in an investment deck, something about pain, about solution, big market, big margins, good business model, and you're a great team. So I got it. So here's my 10-second pitch. Isn't it great? We do this phenomenal thing, and you would immediately invest millions and millions of dollars to be part of this great enterprise. And there's something that's called the curse of knowledge. It's a problem that someone who's deeply, deeply into something finds it incredibly difficult to explain that to someone who's intelligent but is completely outside of the scope. And the authors of this book made a stick. I can recommend you to read it. Coined this term. So to explain it could be, think of a symphony or a piece of music in your head, and I will sort of start tapping the tune on the table here. For me, it makes perfect sense. I hear the orchestra is playing. You hear this. You hear someone tapping on the table, missing all the rich context that I have sitting in my head. And basically, this 10-second pitch is just exactly that. To you, it makes perfect sense. To everyone else, it doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't stick in people's mind. And often you see the version of this is the mission statement that some startups still start their pitch with, which is the same effect to the outsider. Mission statements can be very useful, right? But only for the people that have been part of this sort of 2 weeks process, that have been thinking about it, looking at every word and every comma, and it makes total sense, and it's a great summary of an offsite that people have. This is what a company stands for. To an outsider, it will just sound like the Dilbert, so mission statement generator. They don't get it. It's not specific. Could
you give an example of a good 10-second pitch?
Good question. There's a bit of the cliche one, 10,000 songs in your pocket of Apple would be an example. That's something that explains a little bit about what you do. So something very much more specific, and maybe not trying to boil the ocean and address all the things that you talk about. So Apple could have said, we have this great service that's going to disrupt the media value chain, and it's going to create benefits to all consumers. There's again a lot of wording around it. To make it very specific to 10,000 songs in my pocket type of pitch. So just a snappy and a short sentence. Let's move on to the slightly longer pitch. Let's say sort of a half-an-hour type of pitch meeting. So people have seen TED videos, and it's actually possible in 20 minutes to get a fairly complex idea across. And this should be your mindset. You don't need to fill all the time, but try and create a very short, snappy type of presentation that gets the key messages out, and then engage in a dialogue that Mark was talking about. So how can you cut time in slides? One is to stop saying the obvious. If there's facts out there that everyone knows, online video will be big. If that's the common perception, then spending to 10 minutes with market data slides and repeating IDC numbers, how big online video will be, is not going to help you. And the clock is ticking in your pitch meeting, and people will switch off. Why are so many decks repeating so many things? They're created in a process what I call Frankensteining of presentations. You take PowerPoint, you open it, all the windows, all the presentations you possibly had in the last sort of month for the board, sales meetings, anything, and you slap it all together, and in the process of like 30 minutes you have this colossal slide deck that is the universe that contains all the information you ever wanted to know, and your pitch presentation is you start in slide 1, aim to go to slide 50, you're going to take it one by one. This probably is the complete opposite than the bathtub approach of designing a story that fits the exact purpose that you want to have. Instead, listen to the signals or the feedback. Often a meeting with an investor, you already start questions. And really work on those in the meeting, because these are the questions the VC has in his head, and these are the questions that need to be solved. There could be very obvious big questions. So, for example, you're talking about the order in which you want to prepare things. If one of your team members is particularly long, it's almost like it's sort of an elephant in the room type of situation, that it's so obvious that, hey, this person is a teenager, can't you run a company, that you might almost like put it completely up front and take that one first, because the investor will just go around, spinning around and trying to find the holes in the company. And this one is the big obvious one, so bang, take that one out, and then the investor might just jump to another sort of weak point, bang, address it, address it, address it. So in a slightly random structure, adjusting the flow of the presentation to the big issues that your company is facing. So you start off when people, some investor presentation uses incredibly big preamble. So they're creating this story to build up before they get to the point. And all the time you're talking, and the investor is just guessing, what was this person doing? What is this person doing? What is this person doing? And when he doesn't sort of understand briefly what is actually roughly about it you're talking about, he will not pay attention at all to what you say. He's still in the guessing game about what this company is about. So it's better just to say, we're roughly doing this. All right, I'm listening. Like I sort of put you almost in a box. Your company is sitting here, and you can use the rest of the presentation to add nuances and say that you're still a bit different than all the other people that are sitting in the box, but at least you calm the investor down, and he's paying attention to what you're saying. It is important one to spend more time on the problem that you try to solve than the features of the actual solution. I think if you convince an investor that this is a big problem that needs to be solved, the second bit will go a lot easier. And the challenge is to do that in a visual way. So, for example, here we think the lottery tickets will go mobile. We can put this as a sentence on the screen, but we can also use visuals and say, well, here this is a queue of people queuing up for tickets in front of a lottery kiosk in Spain. So it puts almost the investor in the street using visuals to show the problem that you're trying to fix in an investor presentation. The momentum in a pitch is a very important one. You're building up, you're adding. It's a flow of energy that goes through these 25 minutes, and you need to make sure that you don't puncture that sort of balloon, that you don't snap the momentum of your presentation. And one thing that can do that perfectly is the demo of your product. Demos are very dangerous. They can go wrong. Technology can go wrong. You can also spend a lot of time moving around your software before you get to show what you want to show. And I would advise in very, very short pitches, just use a series of screenshots of your product and show exactly the things you want to show, even highlight them with a bubble to show like what's this feature. It's really, really interesting. You control the flow with your remote control. There's no chance for a hiccup, and much safer than doing a live demo in a pitch. Afterwards, you can invite investors to come, let's offline play around with the demo, but don't put that in your very high stake, your very important pitch meeting, which will just pop the energy if things go wrong, and you will lose sort of the excitement in the room. Here's the CEO fixing the technical problem. Technology, so sometimes people offend the audience and say, well, this is technology, it won't bother you, it's too complex. You put this aside. Why don't you just offend the audience? It's also often a core piece of what your company has is actually the technology. And Einstein said, put it very, very well. That any intelligent person, and Mark is more than intelligent, it should be possible to explain simply what your technology is about. Maybe take a highlight to get people the idea, the concept, and what you try to do, so don't kill it out of the deck. A bit about financials. and there's two types of financials in investor presentation that are always combined. There's the one in year one, the burn rate, it is incredibly certain. You will spend this money for sure in year one on the development of the company. And the investor would also be very interested to know exactly, at a high detail level, where you're going to spend that money on, to the last $1,000. The year 5 dream is totally up in the air. It's who knows, and adjust your precision accordingly. So ballpark is going to be roughly like this. I don't know exactly, but the precision decreases as you go out. And I actually use in column charts, I start with this type of number, and as I move on in the years, I make them simpler and round the numbers up to much more simple financial numbers. And the $50 million, like almost all pitch decks have $50 million in year 5. So that's not the interesting bit. The interesting is, why do you think you can get that $50 million? And that's the key question.
Yeah, mine's 100 million, just to be clear.
48.9.
Yes. 99 point something.
So here you go. Some techniques. This is the often overused one. You take 5% of $1 billion, it's 50 million. If it's a really good piece of Gartner IDC research, it might be useful. In most of the cases, it has not that much credibility to talk about, because it is you cannot relate to this at all to size this number up. So this is what I usually do. So the napkin approach of numbers. I have in my business plan a very complicated spreadsheet that has users and spend per month and full of detail. But when I get to the 50 million, I actually simplify it dramatically and take those factors that are really important and make a very simple multiplication of a number of very basic numbers to get to 50 million. And then you can always have a debate. And so you can believe these numbers or not. You can be a bit higher, a bit lower. But you sort of get a feel for why you believe that 50 million is gonna work or not. And the investor can decide whether to believe you and not believe you. And you can even on the spot adjust the numbers a little bit. So that's one technique to use. The other is to basically work your way backwards and say, well, this very conservative set of assumptions will get you to $50 million. I, as an entrepreneur, actually believe it's going to be a lot higher. But if you want to know why 50, this doesn't sound optimistic, but it's not completely crazy or off. In all your finances, in all your presentation, the consistency of the numbers is very important. When you mention a number here, and a number on another slide, and a number on another slide, make sure that all these numbers are completely in sync. That the total that you showed in year 3 was 21.3 is 21.3 on every slide. Not that it matters to make a small calculation error, but again, it's the mind of the investor when it sees 21.3, 90.6. The investor starts going to this side of the room and starts calculating and thinking about why is it different, is it me, let's go back. And again, he or she is not listening to your story. Just to get the attention, make sure it's completely consistent on every page. Let's talk a little bit about the competition. And people often borrow fancy frameworks. So at McKinsey, I've drawn many of these things. So people sort of Google around, and this one's actually very nice. Let's take this pyramid. Let's take the letters or the words off and put my own ones inside, and have a really fancy competition framework. Frameworks are great tools, and consulting, I use them a lot to solve a problem. When you want to talk with people in a room and talk about strategic options, you use frameworks to solve a problem. Frameworks are not very compelling to make people excited about an idea, to sell an idea. So I would just refrain from borrowing frameworks, but instead design my own one. So if there's two types of competition in the market, one does this, the other one does that, but we are the sweet spot in the middle. If that's your story, draw a very simple diagram that just says that story. It's very simple and very basic. Another one would be here. We have all these people in the market, and guess what? We are the only people that is all green. So another very simple way to just show your competition as almost a feature table that's often used in software. Talking about the team, that Mark also touched base on. Team slides I always split in two. There's the highly detailed description of the background of the team, with sort of all the positions they had, the university background, etc. But these slides are graphically very dense and very hard to present. So I think about your team, what is special, and emphasize that. So if your team has a lot of years of experience, show the years of experience. If your team has a history of working together before in different companies, make parallel timelines and draw the circles to show where the people work together. If the people have been working in very prestigious brands or big companies, just put the logos of the big companies on. So to make a slide to talk about your team, what's special about it, and sort of separate it from the raw data of the CV that I will put in the appendix of my document. Just see what is special about your team and talk only about that.
SalesCrunch. Learn more, earn more. SalesCrunch. Learn more, earn more.